In this video, we're going to be showing how to replace a starter motor in this 1991 Honda CRX. And so the hardest part of this job is going to be getting the bolt that is on the underside of this guy. So right there is my new starter motor. And you can see on my little ratchet extension where that is. So basically getting access to this thing is extremely difficult. And so working backwards from how you get this thing off is going to be the following. So basically you're going to have to take off the bracket on the top of the transmission. You're going to have to take out the motor mount right here that goes onto that bracket. You're going to have to take out the battery tray right here to get access at these bolts to basically get them all out. And you're also going to have to take out the airbox right here just to get more clearance on the top part of this engine, all so that you can get access to this one stupid bolt right there. It's a 14 mil. But once you're able to get that thing off, you can slip on the new one. I'm going to show you guys how I did all this stuff. But there's the other 14 mil bolt that I just put in. And then the other thing to note is that you've got like a 10 mil thing right there with that copper stud on it. And that's going to be where this guy goes right here, which is the main wire coming right off the battery. So this is your battery terminal right here for positive. And so I'm gonna show you guys all the steps here, but this is how you do it. Took me a lot of time to figure this one out, but hopefully the new starter gets this car running, and I hope this helps you guys. So we've got some air intake hoses right here. We've got a battery, and then in my case, because we've got an AC compressor, we've got some aluminum lines carrying our refrigerant through here. So we're just gonna have to work around these. We don't have to take it out or anything. But the actual starter motor is right in here. Very hard to see right now, but you can get a better look at it once we get deeper in. So to get this hose off, I'm gonna start by taking off this clamp and pulling this out. I'm gonna be really careful not to tear any of these things because they're delicate rubber and hard to find replacements for in these days. And then this battery is just these two 10 mil nuts to get this off, and then we'll get this thing out. And then there's some battery tray in here we might take it out too if we wanted, but yeah, so we're just gonna do that, and then we'll get back to it. So we've got out the air intake and the battery, so we've got a lot better access now, and we can see our starter motor right in here. And if we look in there, you can see that there's this lead. Sorry, it's not focusing. There's that lead right there, and then there's also a little rubber cover over this guy, which is hiding a bolt that's securing this terminal right here, which is one of the biggest in the entire car, because this is the one that is powering this guy. And then also in here we've got that bolt right there. It's a 14 mil. And then on the underside of this guy, I'm gonna go underneath the car, try to get you guys a good shot. There's a second bolt that's holding this thing into that transmission. Just want to show this nut that's behind this rubber cover right there. And so I'm using a 12 mil wrench on here to get that nut free. Sorry, you guys can't see it too well. But yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm gonna loosen this thing, and then we'll be able to take off this terminal. This is the new starter motor, and so I should have shown this in the beginning, but basically there's that top 14 mil bolt that holds this, and then there's that bottom one that's hard to see from the top of the car that's in there. And then there's also another thing right here that's securing a little mount for the wiring harness on the car that we'll be taking off too. So so far we've taken off this guy and that guy, so now we're just going to take off this and that lower one, and then we'll get to slip off the old guy and put in the new one. All right, so this is how things look after we took off that little 8 mil thing fastener on the bracket for our starter. And so now this whole wiring harness can kind of slide around and just be off of this guy. So only last bolt holding this thing in is that other 14 mil on the other side of this guy. So we're gonna go underneath here and hopefully be able to see that from underneath the car. All right, and so that other bolt, the 14 that we're gonna take off, is right there. So it's gonna be pretty hard to get to, but I'm gonna try to see what I can sneak in there. And yeah, so then once we get that thing out, we'll be able to pull this guy off and slip in our new one. Change of plans for me. I'm having a really hard time getting at that 14 mil bolt that is down there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this motor mounts right here on top of the transmission, and I'm also going to take off this plate, and then that should get me a bit more access in there so that I can have a little extension on my half-inch drive ratchet, and then I'll be able to take this thing off. There is a 14 mil nut hiding right underneath there, which is impossible to access. So with a ratchet, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in with a 14 mil wrench here, and that is still pretty in the way. So I'm gonna be taking out this battery tray, and there are actually 4 12 mil bolt joint slots. There's one right there. There was another one right there. Had to cut this wiring harness clip right there to get that. And then there's another 12 right underneath that. And then there's another guy right there. So 4 total to get this battery tray out so we can get access at that little 14 mil nut right there. All right, so this is what it looks like now. Finally was able to get this 14 mil ratchet underneath there, and now we can just very slowly and gently get this thing the rest of the way off. All right, getting the motor mount off that's on top of the transmission on the passenger side has been a huge pain in the butt. And there's a nut right here, 17 mil, that's been hiding on here. That's just made life a lot harder than it needed to be. So I'm gonna take that guy off. Okay, go back up top here. And take out this guy. The 19 mil that goes through it, like that. And then we can come in here, and in theory this part right here is going to lift it out and away. So we got this piece. That was very difficult. And now can finally do what I intended all along here and take out this top bracket on the transmission. This guy comes out. We've got these weird things on here that I don't even know where that piece goes, but I'm not using it. But whatever, we'll put that there. That guy goes in there. And now, hopefully, I've got more access to have a clean shot underneath here to that starter motor bolt. This is the reason why we had to take out all those extra things. We are now able to successfully get on our half-inch drive socket onto that 14 mil bolt right underneath that starter motor. So had to take out a ton of pieces. This motor mount, the bracket on top of the transmission, the battery tray, the air filter, the air intake hose. So it's just a ton of parts that had to come off, but now that we've got it, we can finally start taking off that 14. And you can see that our starter motor is finally wiggling a little bit. So I'm gonna keep taking this off the rest of the way, and then we'll be able to put on a new one. This is that 14 mil bolt that was a huge pain in the ass, but we finally got it out on the lower part of the transmission in that hole right there. So this is our starter. I'm gonna try to pull that out. Having these AC lines make things a lot harder. This car really wasn't meant to have AC, which just puts extra stuff in the way, but I'm gonna try lifting this thing out, and that's a lot of oil to see on this thing. I think I've got a leaky rear main seal on my engine, so I really should do a clutch and flywheel and all that stuff soon on this thing. But all that aside, this guy is that starter motor, so we finally got this thing out, and can try to throw in a new one and see what happens.